Join UF Hall of Famer and 14-year NFL vet Shane Matthews every weekday as he brings you all you need to know about your Florida Gators, including news, analysis, and opinions with some of the biggest names in sports. Find us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Or watch us live at 8 a.m. on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter.
Good morning. It's a live edition of PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. It is Thursday. That means we'll have Brent Beaird, our college football analyst and Heisman Trophy voter. And we're going to have Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News. High school playoffs crank up tomorrow night around the state. Not a whole lot going on right now. Gators getting ready for LSU Tigers. 3:30 start in the swamp. Should be a good atmosphere. Let's go to the Titan MR hotline courtesy of Comfort Temp. And as I mentioned, he's right now thinking about who he's going to vote for the Heisman Trophy. Brent Beaird, good morning. How you doing, my man?
Well, I am excited because we've got another weekend of college football coming up, and also excited about having a high tomorrow of 71. So we've got 70s and 50s and even some 40s coming up. So some good football weather this weekend.
Brent, you're one of those people that when it's like 62 degrees, you build a fire on the fireplace and everything, right?
No, I love cool weather.
Right.
So
but it's funny. I'll go take a jog and it's like 60 degrees out one morning. People got their fireplaces going.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, Brent. Let's just jump right into what everybody's talking about these days. College football playoffs have come out, the rankings or what have you. A lot of people say some of the teams, the top 4 teams, haven't played anybody. Blah blah blah. Just your thoughts on where it's going to change every week. It's going to change leading up to the championship games. But your thoughts right now where it stands?
It will change maybe even dramatically before we get to the end. So I think a lot of the frustration is with Indiana at 5. A lot of comments that they haven't played anyone. Look, that will take care of itself before it's over. Tennessee's got a shot if they can beat Georgia and run the table. They're at that they could certainly be higher than they are. A lot of argument about Texas weak schedule too, so you see a little bit of that. Notre Dame gets the weak schedule comment also. And you've got several teams that are on the verge. The 12 is what you're looking at. Georgia's at 12, but they won't be at 12. Your number 12 is going to be your best non-Power 4 team. Now, and you've got some teams on the verge. Boise State, SMU, A&M. A&M plays Texas at the end of the year, which will be incredible. Colorado's up 17. There are, you can also count the number of SEC teams in here, and that's going to be constantly 3, 4, 5. Same thing for the Big Ten. So it's fun to look at, but folks need to also realize this is going to change a lot before we make the final selections coming up in the first Sunday of December.
Yeah, we also lost a couple of well-known coaches that had long, successful careers in college football.
I don't know if folks, some of this I may miss, but John Robinson, who is at USC twice and also in the NFL, really good football coach, and Jerry Faust, probably better known as a high school coach than he was, frankly, at Notre Dame. But both those guys died. They both died at 89 just this week. So certainly our prayers and condolences for their families. But two well-known guys that after you retire and go away, you kind of get out of the limelight. But these are guys a lot of people remember.
Yeah, for sure. Rough weekend last weekend, weekend for the state of Florida. All the colleges had a rough week.
Except for the Dolphins, it was almost an offer, all in all. But they sure did. I mean, it's very unusual when FAU, Florida, Miami, Florida State, USF, and UCF all lose. FAMU, Bethune, Stetson also lost. So, yeah, unfortunately, it was a lost weekend for the state of Florida as far as football is concerned.
Yeah, Brent, when you look at the playoffs, do you think only one ACC team will get in? Let's assume Miami and did I say SEC? I meant ACC.
Yeah.
Let's assume Miami and SMU play one another, which that's probably what it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Whoever wins that game is getting in. Obviously, it's automatic, but the loser is done, right? Don't you think a two-loss ACC team has no weight compared to an SEC two-loss team?
It would be much harder. Now, people are we're going to say, why is that? It's not fair. Well, it may not be fair, but that's just that's your reality, and that's the reality that we're going to be looking at with the playoffs. And I'm not going to say this can happen every time, but right now, if you've got a choice between this committee between the Big Ten or the SEC, one of those teams versus someone else, probably the SEC team is going to get in there, and the argument's going to be because they likely played a tougher schedule because they're in a tougher conference. To your point, you've got Miami at 9, you've got SMU at 14. Great season for SMU. And then, obviously, I mean, I'm not saying that they couldn't beat Miami. Miami's shown that fact of where they can lose games. They've been playing with fire the whole year, and it finally happened with Georgia Tech. But to your point, Shane, I would say probably, I mean, obviously your ACC winner is going to be an automatic qualifier, but being able to get in a second team would be probably rather difficult for them. Yeah. So this is one of the reasons that people want to go ahead after seeing this, that they're looking forward to having it expanded in 2026 when it goes to either 14 or 16. I mean, that's kind of the logic in it, Shane. You still, before you even have the thing, people want to expand it.
Yep. And kind of the same thing's going to happen in the Big 12 because the Big 12 is definitely down. BYU they're still undefeated. Right. Colorado is 7-2. They have a chance to run the table and play in the Big 12 championship game. But only one team out of the Big 12 is going to get in, and Deion's done a good job with them this year for sure. Is Travis Hunter on your ballot, Brent?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Look, when I saw Shane, I wanted to ask you if you'd ever seen this before. On Saturday, Travis Hunter played 161 plays. Have you ever heard of that?
No, it's crazy. That's crazy that he's in. I mean, now granted, out of those 160-something plays, he's smart enough and savvy enough as a DB to know when he can kind of take plays off.
Right.
Same way on offense, he knows. You never want to say this as a coach, but hey, Travis, if this is a run play the opposite way, don't even exert any energy on this.
Yeah,
so, right. But it's phenomenal what he's doing.
It is
for sure. Zach's question on YouTube, brought to you by Quality Plumbing, says, "Is our third string QB really a walk-on or a non-scholar or on scholarship?" He's a walk-on. We've talked about that multiple times. Played at Yale. It's hard to have 3 scholarship quality quarterbacks in today's world. So I don't know when people are. All right, FAU made a coaching change.
Yeah, they have. They fired their defensive coordinator, Rock Bellatoni, He had been on the staff for a couple of years. He was at Auburn for a little bit. They're 2-7. And look, a lot of these teams, the head coach is not going to be fired, but you're going to see a lot of coordinators who are fired. We've seen some of that really starting over the last few weeks. So that's one of the latest ones, and we will see a number of them, Shane, won't we, as the season draws to a close?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is very possible in the Southeastern Conference. All these teams could end the season at 10-2. Ole Miss, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas, Texas A&M, and Alabama.
Right.
Now, I do know this. If that happens, the Aggies are in the SEC championship game for sure as the 1 seed because they would only have one conference loss.
Correct.
Because their other loss would have been to Notre Dame. So if everybody ends up 10-2, the Aggies are in. I have no idea how they're going to figure out the other people.
Well, what they've got in order to determine the SEC championship game participants, there's there are 8 steps to determine this. Number 8 is just a random draw, which basically means a coin flip. Is what it amounts to. I don't think you'll get that far. But it could get down there and get bid. And see, this is when you take divisions away, this is one of the things that you deal with, that you've got to determine it maybe kind of a different way. But to Shane's point is A&M right now is 5-1, Texas is 5-1, and Tennessee is 5-1. So obviously A&M and Texas play each other, so that will be the difference there. Tennessee has Georgia this weekend, so they're still a lot to play for, but yes, A&M could definitely be in the championship game, and in Mike Elko's first year, Shane, that will be quite a feat.
Yes, for sure. There's no question about that. I was looking at the conference standings here, and I knew this, but it's hard to swallow, Brent.
Yeah.
Conference wins: Mississippi State 0, Kentucky has 1 conference win, Auburn has 1. Oklahoma has 1, and the Gators sit with only 2 conference wins. So, and our 2 conference wins come from Kentucky Wildcats and the Mississippi State Bulldogs.
Shane, of all
2 worst teams in the league.
Shane, of the teams that we just mentioned, who surprises you most? I think for me it might be Oklahoma. I just thought they would be better. We knew they had to replace all their offensive linemen. We weren't sure who the quarterback was going to be. And both those things are still really have been a problem for them. And then they've lost, amazingly, basically, at one time or another, all 5 of their starting wide receivers. So it has been quite the year for Oklahoma. And you could say the same thing also for Auburn, couldn't you?
Yeah, no question. Electronics World Integration and Design Specialist for Smart Home Automation and Entertainment. Affordable local installation service and support. Go check them out. electronicsworld.net. We got Brent Beaird here on the Titan MR Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Second part of today's program, we'll talk high school playoffs with Mike Ridaught. All right, Brent. Right now, who do you think is the best 2 teams in the SEC? Or I should say, just who do you think the best team is in the league?
I'm hesitating because that's a tough call. Frankly, you can make a case for any of the top 3, Tennessee, A&M, or Texas. I know a lot of people would take probably Texas. You saw them last week. They've got, they're really good. They've also got their flaws. They've got one of the best backup quarterbacks anywhere, so that's a real help for them. It could be Tennessee, and the thing I like about them is their ability to run the ball and their defense. If you can run the ball and play defense, there are a lot of things you can do, and a lot of things that you can win. So. I like A&M too more. So read the way it's come along. Maybe maybe a little bit of an edge to Tennessee, but that could change by the end of that could change by Saturday night.
Yeah. And that's funny because I asked all these different. Everybody's got their own, because it's so wide open.
It is.
I think the best team in the league. I think the best team in the league is Ole Miss. Quite honestly,
they could be.
They got 2 losses by 3 points, pretty much the last play of the game. So they're. I said yesterday they're kicking themselves how they lost those games.
Oh
but
yeah.
In reality, it may all work out. Even though they don't have a chance to probably win the SEC title, they're going to get in the 12-team playoff.
Oh, yeah. They to your point, the argument can be made, they may be the most complete team in the SEC. I mean, offensively, they're unbelievable, and particularly if Trey Harris comes back. And the thing that surprised me more than anything else is what Pete Golding's done to that defense. I mean, they are really legit. And Florida fans will see them coming up next week. But is that a fair statement, Shane, that they may be the most complete team in all phases of the game?
I agree with that 100%. They beat Georgia down. And as you just mentioned, their top receiver and their top running back did not even play in the game.
That's right.
So they're loaded. All right, Josh's question on the Titan Lamar text line for you, Brent, is, do you think we will see a higher amount of high school recruits wait until February to sign versus in December due to the length of the playoffs and possible coaching changes? Because a lot of kids last season committed in December, saw coaching changes, and used the transfer to move teams. But they they can transfer. There's no limit on transferring, right? You can do that every year if you want for no penalty.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. That will be interesting to see if it happens. I still think that a lot of these guys want to get it out of the way, and they'll make a decision to do so. But I mean, there are a lot of things to that. So some guys just love the attention, and if they can spread it out to February, they'll do that. Or in fairness, they may just be waiting around to see, is there going to be a coaching change at the school they like or something like that? So I can understand them waiting. But again, just to remind everybody, signing day is the first Wednesday in December. It's not the 20th like it was previously. They moved it up, but we still have the one in February. And I still think one day, Shane, they will change it to sometime in late summer, and then the other date probably, and we'll keep it in February, or they may do away with that. That's going to be very interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, we got a lot of comments here about third-string quarterbacks, that Florida should have somebody better than these kids, like a 2 or 3 star. Again, if you're a third-string quarterback, you better be a damn good teammate, because your chances of playing are about 1.5%.
Yeah,
now, we've had 2 injuries to 2 really good players, but those 2 and 3 stars have opportunities to go play at the Southern Misses and the Troys and those places.
Sure.
And kids want to play. I don't think people understand that. That's why you see people transferring. It's for money and playing time. I understand it, but I mean, we're sitting here talking about third-string quarterback. Nobody else in America is playing with their third-string quarterback, so let's not worry about that. It's a freak thing. Okay.
Yes.
All right, real quick, Brent, before we move on, here's an interesting text on the Titan Lamar text line. It says, there are rumors that $26 million in the buyout money was raised for Billy's contract. Now there are rumors that the buyout money is being reinvested into the transfer portal class. What is your opinion on this? Logic tells me if the boosters had the money raised to fire Billy, their minds would be made up to fire him, not to redirect the funds into recruiting for make or break year. It seems like betting a lot of money on 1 year of potential success for a losing coach instead of investing in long-term success with a proven coach. I've said this multiple times that I've never fired anybody, Brent. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but whoever's in charge of that position has to say, okay, is this the coach, this the staff, is the program? Can I look into the future, and is this the guy that can take us to the promised land? If it's not, and you got the money, you need to sever ties, in my opinion. People talk about recruiting. I don't think it's that big a deal in today's world, quite honestly, because I do think you can pick and choose out of the portal to fill your team. Now, having said that, getting kids out of the portal is hard now because those kids they're trying to get the most money. They're going to go where they want to go where they can win, right? Or where the schools have been winning. So I don't know the right answer to that. You got any comments on that, Brent?
Well, the portal thing is like this. It's a crapshoot. For instance, as we talked about Ole Miss, they've hit the jackpot on the portal. On the other hand, you've got Florida State that hit the jackpot on the portal last year with Keon Coleman and Johnny Wilson. They had one of the better quarterbacks, obviously, in the nation. He got hurt at the end. And this year, I won't say all of them, but the majority of those players that FSU brought in have not worked out. So to Shane's point, that's a reality. You're still building basically from your high school players. And look, probably the best thing you can do that will be now Ole Miss has made it work. The Lane can make it work, but most coaches will tell you what they prefer to do is to build from high school seniors and kind of cherry pick, as Shane said, some positions that you need to be reinforced. So that's kind of the formula that most coaches are using. But again, the portal sometimes works and sometimes doesn't.
Yep, there's no doubt. And you mentioned Lane. He's been in the portal a lot, but his high school recruiting right now, I have my Ole Miss people sending me stuff all the time via Twitter.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting kids to flip from Alabama to Ole Miss right now.
They are. Yes.
Yeah. So, all right, let's skip over Alabama. They got Mercer. Obviously, they had a big win. So it's kind of a bye week coming off the LSU big win for them. Did they come out of that game pretty healthy, though, Brent?
No. Q Robinson, one of their starting linebackers, got hurt, and he's out for the year. But otherwise, they're okay. Jaden Roberts, their offensive lineman, got hurt, but he will be okay. And the real success for that game was Alabama being able to run the ball. There are a lot of things Alabama did that Florida can kind of emulate too when they play Ole Miss. But that was a good ratio, and probably the best thing he could have done for Jalen Milroe is he threw the ball about 18 times, ran it about 12. For him, that's a good combination.
Yeah, I mean, he was the best player on the field. He looks like TJ Yeldon against some of these teams. Just he could throw a little bit. All right, the Gators host LSU. Brent, there's so much noise in Baton Rouge about Brian Kelly. They're 6-3. They're somewhat out of the playoffs, you would think. He's 26-10 since he's been there. I mean, isn't that crazy just to sit here and think that the fans are all upset about that?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, Kelly is 4-8 versus ranked opponents, but it's not like he forgot how to coach. LSU beat writers told us at the beginning of the year that they just don't have the players they need yet, and that's obvious, and particularly on defense. And they're going to be better on defense as it goes along, and they've got some good players there. And I like Garrett Nussmeier. He has kind of come undone the last couple of games with A&M and Alabama, and really just hasn't played well. But those are two really good defenses also. But you're right about that. I mean, there's a lot of criticism on Kelly, usually all the time for one thing or another. But I still think, and I'm curious what you do, and I won't belabor the point here, I think if Florida is able to get a running game going, that they can have some success controlling the ball, controlling the clock, and that's what has kind of been the formula for beating LSU over the last couple of games.
Yeah, they should run the ball okay against them. My concern is I just think LSU, regardless of the interceptions that Garrett Nussmeier's thrown, he forces a lot of balls, but boy, I think he's got just a knack of how to play the position, and they got dudes at the wide receiver position.
They do.
I think we're like 13th in the league against the pass, and this might be the best passing team we'll face outside of Ole Miss. All right, the big one in the conference is the Dogs coming off their loss in Oxford. They're hosting Tennessee. We don't know the status of Nico.
No.
Some reports are that he's out. What have you heard, Brent?
The same thing. I mean, it's kind of one of those. It depends on the moment and what they put on the injury report, which could be questionable or probable. I mean, we've heard different things, that the concussion was severe and he may not play, or that he is ready to go. The great equalizer for Tennessee is Dylan Sampson, the running back. He's the best running back, arguably in the league, leads about every category, and they can still play really good defense. No one this year has scored more than 19 points on Tennessee, and that's a real advantage for them. And look, Georgia, and I'm curious what you've seen, but Georgia's really struggling in a lot of ways. Their offensive line's beat up.
Mm-hmm.
They lead the nation in drop passes. And obviously Carson Beck, as we've talked about, is struggling, seeing the field, to throwing a lot of interceptions. That they've got a lot of struggles. But Shane, you know this well. They may be ready and just are able to put it all together this week and play much better.
Yeah, this is you'll find out a lot about Georgia. You're right, Brent. They've lost so many good players over the years to the NFL. They don't have those game changers on the outside right now.
True.
They don't run the football like they used to. Obviously, Carson Beck's not playing well. But as you said, their offensive line is bad. I watched some tape of Ole Miss and them, and sometimes their run plays looked like they were running screens. They weren't even touching the Ole Miss defensive lineman. It was crazy. But I think Georgia's going to find a way to win this game because it's in Athens. Another interesting game in the league, Missouri is at South Carolina. South Carolina's playing as well as anybody in the league, honestly. Missouri, they're not great. Brady Cook is out, I believe.
Yes.
I don't know how they're winning games, but they still only have 2 losses in the league.
Yeah, that is amazing. Drew Pine and he threw about 3 interceptions in the Alabama game. He played much better last week, Pine did, in that insane game they had with Oklahoma. Shane, that was just amazing, wasn't it? I mean, but there were about 4 touchdowns scored in the last 2 minutes of that game, and somehow Missouri was still able to win. That's a big thing in this game is Cook. If Cook was playing, it'd be a different game. So can they get the ball to Luther Burden is the other thing. And look, South Carolina right now, and by the way, Missouri's center, Connor Tollison, is out for the season. That was a blow for them. But South Carolina is playing very well. I mean, their defensive ends, Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart, are as good as anybody. And frankly, I think they're growing up a little bit offensively too. So this will be a very interesting game, and this is one of those games to where the winner may be in a much better bowl game.
Yeah, for sure. Question here on YouTube brought to you by Quality Plumbing. John says, is LSU better in the passing game than Ole Miss? They're both they're really good, both those teams throwing the football. I would say this week and next week between the Tigers and the Rebels will be the best skill guys that we have played outside of Texas. I mean, Texas has really good skill guys, but the other teams that we played before this outside of Texas had not great skill guys.
No, especially if Trey Harris comes back for Ole Miss, he is a true specimen, to say the least.
He really is. Transfer from, I think, 2 years ago from Louisiana Tech. Brent, real quick, let's jump down to Florida State. Obviously, they're off this week. They still are the only team in the world, I say in the world, that has not scored 21 points in a game.
Yeah.
So they fired a bunch of dudes on offense.
Well, they fired them because they have gone 12 straight games without scoring more than 21 points. the other thing, frankly, that it really is their season in a nutshell. There are 134 teams in college football. They average 13 points a game, which is 134 in the nation. So that's why you've got and look, there'll be more coaches going on that staff. That's around the corner. And Shane, this is amazing that they are the first team ever to be ranked in the AP preseason top 10 to start 1-9, and the poll started in 1936.
Wow. Yeah, that's crazy for sure. All right, Miami coming off their first loss of the year. I don't even know who they have the rest of the year. Were you surprised at the Georgia Tech win?
Well, I give Brent Key a lot of credit for what they have done. Is impressive, especially how they did it with two quarterbacks. Haynes King played a little bit. The Philo kid threw the ball, but Miami has played with fire for so long. I'm not surprised with that. They've got Wake Forest and Syracuse, so they should win both those games, and at that point only have one loss going into the ACC championship game. But again, Shane, I give Tech a lot of credit. They beat them last year. They beat them this year. I mean, Tech is not that's not a great roster, but what Brent Key has done there has been amazing.
It really has. All right, last thing, Brent, before we get you out of here. Castellanos, the quarterback at BC, got benched, and now he's in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
there's got to be. They have got to change this rule where it penalizes the kid.
It does.
It's silly.
It is. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, a lot of people were. Did you remember this? In September, a lot of people thought he was a really good quarterback. So, but as seasons goes along, things didn't work out. Unfortunately, he lost his job, and then now he's gone. So no, I'm with you that there's going to I get the kids upset, but there's got to be more common sense to this than we're seeing.
Yeah, Brent, good stuff as always, my friend. Enjoy the fireplace and the cool weather this weekend and watching ball, and we'll talk to you next week.
Good. We'll look forward to hearing Mike too. Thanks, Shane.
All right, that's Brent Beaird. Join us on the Titan Number Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. Quick timeout, come back. We'll switch over to the youngsters and talk a little high school playoffs with our man, Mike Ridaught. You're watching and listening to PodUp with Matthews in the morning from the Crime Prevention Security System Studios. We'll be right back.
Our premium sponsors are Campus USA Credit Union, Crime Prevention Security Systems, Titan MRI, Meldon Law, QC Kinetics, Dave & Buster's, UF Health Orthopedics and Sports Medicine Institute. The Gridiron sponsors are Florida Cracker Kitchen, Comfort Temp, Peachland Dental, Ruse Ogre State Farm, Tropical Smoothie Cafe, Cogent Bank, UF Bookstores, Florida Victorious, Quality Plumbing, Silverback Concrete, Electronics World, Miapa Latin Cafe, 84 Lumber, Baker Sporting Goods, Big Mills Cheesesteaks, Celebrate Primary Care, Dowling Signs, Gator Dominoes, Ironwood Golf Course, Okido America, and Gator Bait Media. Watch and listen to us live on Facebook and YouTube. Listen to the podcast whenever you're on Apple or Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. To become a sponsor and advertise, call our man Freddie at 352-284-3733.
Pro football legend Emmitt Smith understands your joint pain.
It does not surprise me that there are a ton of people out there that's in pain.
That's why Emmitt is such a proponent of QC Kinetics, offering real lasting joint pain relief with non-surgical, all-natural biologic treatments.
Whether it's a joint pain, ankle pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, back pain, hip pain, any kind of pain, the body eventually will break down when it's under that much stress.
That stress can cloud your judgment to the point that you'll just say yes to the scalpel or yes to another prescription selection of pain pills. But maybe it's time for a second opinion from QC Kinetics.
The reason why I would recommend this is because the natural biologics that QC Kinetics is providing you gives your body a chance to naturally heal itself.
Restorative, regenerative solutions are here. Get lasting relief and live your life.
Call QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550. That's 352-400-4550. QC Kinetics, 352-400-4550.
After serving over 100 families over the past several years, we're super excited to kick off the holiday season. I'm Dylan. I'm Garrett. And we're Sunshine Holiday Lights. We all know how stressful it can be to decorate your home during the holidays. Our services include installation of all material, maintenance, takedown, and storage of the material throughout the year. If you want to spend more time with your family this year, give Sunshine Holiday Lights a call.
Welcome back to the Crime Prevention Security System Studios, large enough to serve you, small enough to care. Miapa Latin Cafe. Discover the ultimate Cuban culinary experience at Miapa Latin Cafe with 5 locations in Gainesville and Alachua. You're never far from the best Cuban food north of Miami. I think they have 6 locations. They're building a 6th one. So anyway, let's go to the Titan More Hotline, courtesy of Comfort Temp. It's our man who takes care of the young fellas and young ladies with high school sports, Mike Ridaught from the PrepZone.com and Main Street Daily News. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, Shane. Speaking of the ladies, we got Buchholz girls cross country possibly winning a state championship this weekend. The East Side.
They win it every year, it seems like.
I know they do, right? I mean, they're talented. They've got that rolling, and the East Side boys swim team. I think they will have a top 3 finish in the state this weekend. So we got all these state championships going on for the fall sports. You got the overlap with the winter sports with high school basketball season starting next week for regular season. Soccer season's already underway. Definitely a busy time of year. Of course, the first round of the high school football state playoffs coming up tomorrow.
Yep, that's the reason I wanted to get you on. And real quick, I think we need to get a shout out to, I think it was Branford Volleyball and Trinity Catholic, both played for state titles, came up a little short. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, Branford, did get back to the state championship game, a tough loss for them. St. John Lutheran got to the Final Four as well. But unfortunately, no state championships for the area this year.
Yeah. All right, switching gears, tomorrow night, high school playoffs start. Let's start with the smaller classifications, which, is still very confusing to me, but I'm sure it's the usual suspects, Hawthorne, Union County, Chiefland. Give us kind of a rundown what's going on there.
Yeah, can I first tell you, Shane, why do we have the Rural Division B playoffs? I mean, you've got a 4-6 Sneads team playing at a 3-7 Trenton team. You got a 2-8 Weewa-Hitchcock team playing at 4-6 Dixie County. Why even have this Division B rule playoffs? It makes no sense to me. But the one that counts, the top 16 teams are in that Rural Division A, if you will. This is interesting, Shane, because we've been talking all season long, for the most part, about everybody except for Hawthorne. The Hornets are the 2-time defending state champions. They had their 27-game winning streak snapped at Florida High in Tallahassee in early September. I actually broadcast the Newberry and Hawthorne game the week before. Hawthorne won that game in overtime, but Newberry scored a touchdown, went for 2, missed the 2-point conversion, and the Hornets won that game 28-27. It's hard to believe that game was on August 30th. I mean, that's almost 3 months ago, but it was an early season test for both teams to kind of see where they're at. Newberry, though, in a different classification. Despite the loss that following week, which was a game, by the way, that Cornelius Ingram did not coach, Hawthorne has won 5 straight since. Now, they've only played 8 games this year. It's been tough for them to schedule teams. But the reason Ingram didn't coach in that Florida High game, which was their only loss of the season, was because it was a precaution after having a health issue during the Newberry game. But a big shout out to Ingram and his staff. They lose their starting quarterback, C.J. Ingram, who decided before the season began that he wanted to focus on basketball after committing to the Gators. And as you probably know by now, Ingram has since transferred to Montverde Academy to play basketball. But they got Adrian Curtis from Eastside. He transferred from Eastside. He's thrown for almost 1,000 yards this year, even though he's missed a couple of games, 11 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. But he went down with an injury for a couple of games, and they had a freshman quarterback, a guy by the name of Richard Roundtree, who came in. He threw a Hail Mary pass. He beat a higher classification Orange Park Oakley team. And then they went on the road and beat a decent South Sumter team with that freshman quarterback. So they've got Keenan Johnson in the backfield. He's over 1,000 yards rushing again. He's at 1159 right now through 8 games, 15 touchdowns. And they have a defense that is giving up just 12 points in their last 3 games. So now all of a sudden, after talking about Chiefland, after talking about Union County, which all the way until their last game of the season were unbeaten, this Hawthorne team has kind of flown under the radar. And now they've gotten that number 1 seed. And Shane, they'll be at home throughout the playoffs with a chance to get back to the state championship game and win their 3rd straight state title.
Wow. Yeah, and then obviously Madison County is still I can't ever figure out, because, I mean, Madison County is pretty close to these schools, but then they're in a different region or they're on the other side of the bracket. I can't ever figure it out, but they're a pretty solid squad as well.
Yeah, but keep in mind the reason that it's a little bit different, for at least for this rural classification, is because it's based on seeding. So Hawthorne is the number 1 overall seed, so they're in the top half of that bracket. Madison County, which was in the state championship game last year, is the number 2 overall seed. So they're in the bottom of the bracket. So basically you got 1 versus 16, 2 versus 15 kind of a thing. So that's why it's a little bit different. So Hawthorne's, maybe Chiefland or Williston, who comes out of that game, that's a good opening round game. Williston plays at Chiefland, and turnovers really were the difference in that first meeting. I think Williston turned it over like 8 times in that game. Chiefland won it 18-10. But the Indians got a big win a couple of weeks ago. They were the one that knocked off Union County and had the first loss of the year. Red Devils have a young team. They got a lot of injuries, yet their 4 losses have mostly been by 1 score. They, in addition to that 8-point loss, they lost by 7 at Eastside. They lost by 6 at North Marion. They did lose by 14 at home against Newberry. But the winner of that game will probably play Jay. They're hosting Fort White tomorrow night. But I like Hawthorne coming out of the top half of the bracket. Union County is, as a 3 seed, is in the bottom part of the bracket. So you could see Union County and Madison County again. They would be in the state semifinals this year. So Hawthorne, I think they've got a great shot at getting to the state championship and possibly winning another one.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. The Newberries, the Bradfords, how do they look in their brackets?
Yeah, so I mentioned that Newberry's in a different classification. They are now in Class 2A, and Newberry will be is in Region 2. We are headed to a potential rematch in round 2. Newberry's got Palatka at home. I don't think Newberry will have any problem with Palatka, because they beat the Panthers on the road 32-0 on September the 27th. And then 2 weeks later, they upset Bradford to win that district title. 21-7 was the final. Bradford is at home at the Villages. So I like both of those 2 teams to advance to the next round. But then this time, Newberry, because they're a 3 seed and Bradford's a 2 seed, this time Newberry would have to go to Stark on the 22nd. So tough second round game in the region semifinals. Here's the interesting thing about 2A. This is different than all the classifications, Shane. Last year, there were 9 classifications. This year, there are 8 classes. Because last year we had the Metro and the Suburban, and I never did figure out, who was where for most of these teams. But it's interesting in Class 2A, which is the same classification that Newberry and Bradford are in, because you have 2 defending state champions in Class 2A. The defending 2M champion is Tampa Berkeley Prep. The defending 2S champion is Cocoa. And if those 2 teams win tomorrow, they would play on next Friday in the regional semifinals. The winner of that, because they would play, you got 2 state champions that would play head-to-head. Then the winner of that would play the winner of that Newberry-Bradford game in the region final. So it's going to be tough, for either Newberry or Bradford to get to the 2A state championship game this year.
Yeah. Now, I know PK Young and like Trinity Catholic, they just have to beat each other or whatever. And the other one gets in and the other one is a runner-up. I don't really know. But did PK Young, they were supposed to play Trinity Christian and they forfeited the game. Is that correct?
Yeah, they said they didn't have enough players. So, I didn't like them at all in that game anyway at Trinity Christian.
No.
So it's probably the right decision anyway. But yeah, PK Young's season after the forfeit finished 5-5. Still a pretty good year overall. At least they made the playoffs. They did get beat pretty handily by Trinity Catholic in that 2-team district championship game. But so PK Young's season is over.
All right, let's talk about Buchholz. They face Orlando Evans out there at Citizens Field. They should beat this team, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. This is actually the game that we'll broadcast on 106.9 FM local radio, but also you can watch the game via the NFHS network. Buchholz is 7-3 this year, but they have played a really tough schedule. Their 3 losses, and they were in a row in September. They lost to Bradenton Manatee, which right now is the number 13 overall team in Florida. They lost at Richmond Hill in Georgia, which is right near top 25 overall in the state of Georgia. And then they lost at Nice. That was an overtime loss. Nice is the number 1 team in Class 6A. They're 10th overall in Florida. So they've played a very difficult schedule. They also beat a Cardinal Newman team in the regular season finale that was undefeated, even though they're a 1A team. But they're top 35 in the state overall in Florida, despite their classification. But back to the game itself, Buchholz this year, Trace Johnson, son of former Gator Doug Johnson, he's thrown for over 2,500 yards, 19 touchdowns. Justin Williams, a phenomenal wide receiver. I know he's got offers from USF and Ole Miss. How about 66 catches for 1136 this year? DJ Hicks, another wide receiver option for them, over 700 yards. Kill McGriff, approaching 500 yards receiving. He's got 5 touchdowns in just 7 games. And then, despite the fact that they lost kind of that 1-2 punch in the backfield, their running back, Josiah Powell, is only a sophomore, but he's got 700 yards. He's averaged 5.3 yards per carry. Now, here is where I would say the Trojans of Evans might have a chance. Buchholz does average 33.6 points per game, so I expect them to put some points on the board. But this Evans team, Shane, they average 32.7 points per game. Not only do they have a quarterback that's thrown for 1,400 yards and 15 touchdowns, they have 2 1,000-yard rushers. They have Ladarius Pryor, who is a 3-star, a junior. He's got almost 1,400 yards rushing this year with 13 touchdowns. And another guy by the name of Cameron Oliver, who has over 1,000 yards rushing. He also has 13 touchdowns this year. But they're 6-4. Their 4 losses came to teams that are in the playoffs, so they also have played a tough schedule. Probably their biggest win was against West Orange, which is the number 3 seed in 7A Region 2. And they did beat them handily at home, 39-13. But I think Buchholz, they've got that experience. They've been there. Again, they've been to 3 straight state semifinal appearances. I like Buchholz in this game. The question will be moving forward. Now, at least with the number 2 seed, Buchholz would be at home in round 2, probably against Pace. But then the week after that region final, you could see a rematch between Buchholz and Nice, and that game would be at Nice. But, we'll see what happens. There was a few years ago where Buchholz lost to Bartram Trail during the regular season. Bartram Trail was undefeated, and Buchholz went to Bartram Trail in the playoffs and beat them. So, anything can happen once you get to the postseason.
You've seen Justin Williams play a lot. I've had a lot of people tell me, Mike, he might be the most talented kid, one of the most talented to ever come out of Alachua County.
I mean, he's up there based on his. I mean, that's again, you're talking about a lot of good players. Is he even better than Whittemore? Who was the first ever Alachua County Mr. Football? He is super talented. I've always kind of equated him to a video game. When you're playing a video game as a kid and you got these different spin moves that you can do, on the video game, he's a video game type player. He's the guy that can take it to the house really on any play. And as I noted, I mean, they've got some depth at that wide receiver position where it's tough to double team him because that's going to give Hicks or McGriff or even their tight end an opportunity. But there's no question. I mean, I believe his first offer was from Ole Miss. So that tells you, he's got some skills and he's only a junior. So we'll see how much he continues to develop. But, Yeah, he's no, without question, he's a really good player, Shane. He's a difference maker.
Yeah, well, I think they've been playing him a lot at running back too. So,
And that's a good point. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in high school, get your best player the football any way possible, and they've now turned around and handed it to him. So it's making a difference, no question about that.
Yeah, good.
Mike,
good
all right,
yeah.
so let everybody know how they can listen to the call tomorrow night at one more time.
Yeah, actually, that Buchholz game is going to be a 7 o'clock game. We'll be on the air at 6:30 p.m. If you're in the Gainesville area, just outside the Gainesville area, you can catch us on 106.9 FM. We have free audio available at iamcountryradio.com. But also the NFHS network has is going to take our broadcast feed, and you can actually watch the game. There's just a small fee that you would pay to watch the game, but that would also include any other playoff game that you want to watch throughout the playoffs. And that's on the NFHS network. I'll have an article tomorrow at MainStreetDailyNews.com about the Hawthorne football team and flying under the radar. I got a chance to talk to Greg Bowie, their offensive coordinator, and Cornelius Ingram, the head coach, last Friday at High School Basketball Media Day. That's the thing too, Shane. How about that? Cornelius Ingram, not only is he going for his third straight football state title, but then he is also coaching the girls basketball team, which this year will be going for its third straight state title. Just an unbelievable job by CI. That's going to be our audio broadcast. We'll have live audio of that Branford Hawthorne game. You can listen to it on MainStreetDailyNews.com. That's a 7:30 kick, 7:15 pregame. So Main Street Daily News, you'll find a lot of good stuff. There were a lot of college signings yesterday. Buchholz had 3 baseball players that signed to go to the next level. Also, the Rock had 6 players. Gainesville High School had a couple of volleyball players. Big signing day yesterday, and we've got that at Main Street Daily News as well, and it's free. We don't have a paywall at Main Street Daily News.
Awesome. Mike, good stuff as always, my friend. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
All right, sounds good, Shane. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That's Mike Ridaught. Does a tremendous job covering these high school athletes at Main Street Daily News and the PrepZone.com. Go check them out, folks. Silverback Concrete builds firm foundations for generations. You stand on it. We stand by it. Also, This Day in Sports brought to you by Campus USA Credit Union. Put some star power to work in your financial life. Campus USA Credit Union. In 1993, Don Shula of the Miami Dolphins becomes the coach with the most wins in NFL history. I hope y'all enjoyed today's program. We'll get back at it tomorrow. Same place, same time. Have a great day. Take care.